So I read A Short History of Man by Hans-Hermann Hoppe, and this is a book, as the title suggests, is a short history. It's by no means comprehensive or complex. The first part, interesting, like the first section is more just kind of an overview of early, pre-civilization, you could say, and then early civilizations. He cites his sources, and this seems to be, from what I've read and other things, I mean, I'm not an expert on I'm not an expert on early human development, but from the sources he cites, this seems to be a very well-accepted view of history, that this is how humanity came about, this is how we started. We were in like early hunter-gatherer societies, small groups of people traveling large ranges of area to be able to gather enough resources just to barely pull through. And then we have this Malthusian trap, as he calls it, of the idea that just like any other animal species, that when our population hits a certain point, because we don't produce anything, we just consume, the land is not abundant enough for us to survive, so we have to maintain this kind of population trap. Just like wolves and rabbits and any other animal species, when you run out of food and when you produce too much of a population for food to sustain that, you can't keep growing, you just die. So that's really the beginning of the book, and then later on he does specify at a certain point that, okay, this is where we can't say things for sure, cause and effect. We have to take a more theoretical approach to why did we hit the Industrial Revolution? What actually led us up to this point? And he does clearly set that, which I enjoy. So overall, the book is more of here's some early history, and here is my interpretation of how things went about. Here's my theory of why we went through the Industrial Revolution at this time, how we grew as a human species, and what was so important that led to our rise. And it's more of a call to, yes, this just recall this stuff. Like, recall, this is what made us what we are. This is how we became so great. And it's more just an informative, like, it's persuasive in that it's informative. That, hey, don't forget this stuff. But he does clarify. He does theoretically put forth that that our societies, that we hit the Industrial Revolution because we needed a certain IQ level, was his theory. That these agricultural societies, that it put pressure on IQ. The idea that if you have a society that, or if you live in an area up north where it gets cold, where suddenly you can't keep growing crops anymore, suddenly you have to think further ahead, it puts pressure on that kind of human being, someone that can think ahead and plan for the future, and the people that can't plan for the future die out. And that's his theory, that eventually, after putting so much pressure on IQ, eventually over time, over many years, our IQ was high enough as a human species that we were able to become or lead into the Industrial Revolution. And then that's what made us break out of this Malthusian trap, the idea that we can produce so much that we don't really have to worry about overpopulation anymore. So overall, I thought it was a good book. I enjoyed it. It's not something, again, it's a short history of man. It's not something where you want to read this. You don't want to read this one book and say, okay, I'm an expert, but it's something to take into account. It's an interesting perception of it that I don't see wrong. I think he's right. But it's worth reading into. Let me know what you think in the comment section if you've read the book. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more. And thanks for watching.